Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Mental Corner podcast. I am your host, Harry, and today we're going to be talking about friendship and the importance of both having good friends and being a good friend. I hope all of you guys are staying nice and healthy in quarantine and staying sane in multiple different ways. My week was actually pretty productive, in quarantine standards. My dad decided that, in order for us to stay sane, we would, come up with a schedule where every day we would try to accomplish three goals. And these three goals would be within like this schedule that we came up with. So, uh, you know, it would be like an 8 a.m. wake up and then go work out. And then 9 to 10 would be breakfast. And then 10 to 1 would be personal time where you could do those goals and everything. So it actually worked out pretty well. I did a bunch of stuff that I probably would not have if I hadn't gotten the schedule. And I also, found the passion to work out again, which is pretty cool. I've been biking or running every day. My body is not appreciative of it, but my mental health definitely is. So that's all that really matters. We're trying to stay slim out here, right? So, what else did I do? I won't do any spoilers on this podcast, but I finished Ozark. It only took me like 4 days, and holy cow, that shit was so good. Like, I didn't want to start watching it because, I don't know, something was holding me back. I thought, it's probably not as good as people say, but my dad said I should definitely watch it, so I gave it a go, and wow, it is really good. Like, if you haven't seen it, like, I definitely recommend that show to anyone who's listening in. And then, I live streamed the athletic banquet for Guelph. So because of Corona, obviously, we weren't allowed to have our last athletic banquet for the swim team, which kind of sucked. But we still got dressed up and we FaceTimed the team. There wasn't the whole team there, but it was my coach and a couple other people, and we just watched the live stream together, which was pretty fun. Obviously, not the way I thought our athletic banquet was going to go, but everyone's in the same boat, and we still got one. So that's all that really matters. And then the rest of my week has been, planning my quote unquote party on Saturday. My birthday's on Monday, the 13th. And I thought, maybe on Saturday or on the weekend or something, I could do a live stream and try to get people connected and, advertise my channel, but also like send out a message about mental health and kind of just unite the community together in a way, through like me dancing and me baking a cake and stuff. So if you're listening in right now, I definitely would recommend tuning into YouTube on Saturday. I haven't given a time yet, but I will on my Instagram, so stay tuned for that. And now that we've gone through all that exciting stuff about my life, let's get right into today's topic. So I'm going to kind of go back a little bit into my past, as I do with these podcasts often, or not podcasts but vlogs, but now I'll do with these podcasts. And I kind of wanted season 1 to kind of have a vibe of friends and family. So I'm just going to start with the friend aspect and maybe bring on a couple people as this season goes on. But so I'm going to take it all the way back to elementary school, like grade 2. So I personally, all through school, I never had trouble making friends as a kid. That was never the issue for me. The problem for me was that I was always having trouble making the right friends. And what I mean by that is I could make friends no problem, but I had a hard time finding who my real friends were, as opposed to just, temporary friends or people who were, playing an act and stuff. So I moved from my friends in my home in Newmarket after grade 1, and I started up at this new school in Whitby in grade 2. And that's kind of when the problem started coming out. So I was constantly being bullied for being too fat. Like I had people, I would try to make friends with people, and they'd be like, "Why would I be your friend? You can't even see your feet." And I was like, "That's ridiculous. What do you mean?" Like, of course I could see my feet, but I couldn't because I actually was pretty fat. And it's such a ridiculous, reason to not be someone's friend. But I mean, kids are brutal like that, man. Like that's just the truth. I was also bullied for my interest in animals. I was a huge laughing stock because, this, I'll admit it, it was a little weird, but I would bring toads and bugs and stuff into class to show people. I'd be like, look at my new pet, like, look at this, look at that. And it was a little weird. So I was kind of the laughing stock about that. And then I was also bullied because people thought I was gay. And I'm not sure where this idea came from. And obviously there's not a problem, but I was constantly, being made fun of for being gay. And, as a straight man, I can't fully understand like the pain behind being called that. And I can't understand the stress of actually, hiding that truth about yourself and then getting made fun of for it. But it still hurt because I couldn't put my finger on why I was being made fun of for that. I couldn't put my finger on why people weren't being my friend. Like, was this just an excuse to not be my friend? Like, they had to look for something. So, through the beginning of elementary school, that's kind of where I was standing. And I got to a point, I don't have this picture anymore, but for the class photo in grade 2, I put my two hands to my side and kind of made faces with them because they were my best imaginary friends. Because I had no one else. So they said, stand with your friends, and I didn't have any, so I just kind of put my hands up. And, of course, again, I was the laughing stock for that. But that's kind of where it got to. Obviously, I had some really good friends, and I still talk to some of them. But looking back, the highlight of, the first elementary school I kind of went to, the highlight was the bullying for that time period. Once grade 5 came along, after grade 5 was done, me and a group of people, we got transferred to another school, and I had to make a new group of friends. And I also had to learn how to speak up for myself because once again, the bullying started happening, the name calling, the just pushing around, it all started coming because I was like one of the last of my friends to have a growth spurt, I guess. No, that's not true. Hold on, rewind. No, I don't actually know, but I was just being pushed around and stuff. So I had to, learn how to stick up for myself, and it eventually it became okay. It's just at the beginning I was like, I got to call this off real quick. And then I grew up with these friends all throughout high school. I obviously made new ones along the way, and I made new ones in university and all of that. But it wasn't until like grade 12, I believe, that's when I realized who my real friends were and who was truly there for me. The only issue I had was that I was really scared to open up about the truth behind my mental health to them. They would often, because they were my real friends, they would often ask how I was doing or ask why I was in a weird mood that day. I would just kind of shrug it off, say, it's a bad day, or I hadn't slept enough and I had morning practice. I was tired. This like holding off on how I was really feeling had nothing to do with them because they were always supportive and they asked how I was doing and they were doing all this stuff. But I kind of just put a happy mask, I kind of put a mask on and I played the happy guy role because I felt like they would accept me if I was, that person, as opposed to this guy who had like, quote unquote, something wrong with him. So I kind of put this happy guy role on, and everyone, was always like, oh, Harry's the happy guy. Harry's always there for us. Harry's always laughing, smiling. He's really cool. Well, at least I hope they thought that. But so yeah, I kind of just pushed my feelings to the side. And then all of grade 11 was a complete mess. I was going through a really rough patch with the girlfriend I had at the time, and I never talked about my problems from that situation with anyone. And actually, like my best friend, my like lifetime best friend, he had no idea that it had gotten as bad as it did until I told him like years later. Like I refused to let anyone in, and I figured I'm gonna handle this by myself. I'm a man. I'll do it. I don't want to bother my friends. I bottled it up and I kept, trying to play the happy guy act. obviously it spilled over into university and ultimately led me down the path that I had gone down that I've talked about, through my stories and stuff. But that's kind of where my background with, friends and the importance of friendship kind of went. So I guess the moral of this story that I'm telling is, a good support system in your friends is so important. I didn't really know it at the time, but a big majority of my friends from high school and my friends from university, they were actually there for me and they cared about my well-being. Essentially I bottled up my feelings because I had convinced myself that if I had told them the truth about how I was feeling, that they would be scared off, when in reality that was never going to be the case. It's just something I had planted in my head and I had assumed was the truth. When I told them, later in life, it didn't change anything. Obviously, my best friends got emotional, and we've kind of now made it a tradition to text or call most days of the week just to check up on each other, see how we're doing, because like I said, they were real friends. They cared about how I was doing. They still care about how I was doing, and telling them the truth never affected how they viewed me. And it never kind of, steered them away like I thought it would. And Riley, the guy I had on for one of the H panel episodes, he mentioned this on his H panel episode. He said, real friends will make the time for you. They'll understand and help you through shit. Like, if they don't, they were never your real friends to begin with. That being said, you cannot be friends with everyone. And that's also another lesson that I learned a little too late in life, but is super important to know. There's always going to be people that don't like you, that try to do you wrong, that try to backstab you. And the best way to deal with people like that is to put focus on your real friends instead. And obviously this is easier said than done. I've been backstabbed before, and when it happened, I started doubting all my friends. I was thinking, would they do this too? Like, it can't just stop with this one person or that one person. Like, your trust kind of goes a little bit with everyone, even though they've done nothing. But the truth is, like, real friends won't do that. If you're backstabbed, talked about behind your back, picked on, bashed for dreams you have, like, those people are not your friends. Now, friends can be real with you. They can tell you when you do something wrong or when things aren't adding up. They'll call you out on it. In fact, the realest of friends won't be yes men to you. And you shouldn't expect your real friends to agree with everything you say or everything you do. They'll call you out on your shit, but regardless, they'll still be your number one fan when everything's said and done. And the importance of knowing this difference between someone who's degrading you and a friend who's calling you out on your shit, that's a huge difference, but one that people often have trouble seeing. Another point is that you should never have to modify yourself for your friends. Back in high school and through some of university, like, I forced myself to be this happy guy because I thought my friends would never want to be around me if I expressed how my emotions were really feeling or how I was really feeling inside my head. I felt like our relationships would be done. But once it came out, like, nothing changed. Our relationship didn't change. And this lack of change in our relationships kind of made me realize that, oh man, I should have opened up sooner. Because like I said, your real friends will be there for you no matter what. And if they're not, then good riddance, because they're not a real friend, obviously. Now, one second, sorry. Throat's drier than a motherfucker. Sorry. On the other side of things, it's equally important to be a good friend. And it doesn't seem like much, but those real friends may just save someone's life. I would have never gone to therapy, or even continued therapy for that matter, if it wasn't for my friends who were pushing me on and suggesting therapy and telling me that, therapy's not as scary as it seems, or it's not as tedious as it seems, like you need it, like please go seek help, we love you, like we want you here. I would have never even gone through breakups, disappointments, stressful moments in my life without my friends. That was never, like, looking back, if I hadn't had the friends that I had, like that support system, if that was not there, I would have never made it through those times. People who are depressed and anxious and suicidal, they'll always feel alone. It's a huge reason why, these people distance themselves when things get bad. We don't want to burden everyone because we've convinced ourselves that we're too different to be accepted. Even when more than 90% of the time, that's never the case. Good friends can be a huge solution and a huge relief to someone who's in their head 24/7. And, ways to do this: be patient, listen, give love, be compassionate. Show them that you're a real friend. It doesn't have to be much. It doesn't have to be this like big spectacle or big statement. But little messages like, how can I help, or let's talk, they mean the absolute world to someone who's struggling. They meant the absolute world to me when my friends did it. So be there for people, because, being alone, or at least thinking you're alone, will eat away at you and is a horrible feeling that I personally would never wish on anybody. So, yeah, that's kind of everything I had for you guys today. Moral of the story, man, like, know who your real friends are. And don't waste time on fake friends. I've seen that so often. Like, people who they even know that their friends are fake, and they'll just keep wasting their energy on the stress of having these fake friends around. Like, I've never understood that. Like, just focus on your real friends, because they're always there for you, and they're gonna make your life so much easier than any fake friend can. And that's kind of all I have. I appreciate you guys so much for tuning into this podcast and for watching all my YouTube videos. It always means the world to me, and I say it all the time. And I know I say it all the time, but that's neither here nor there. I really appreciate you guys for coming on and tuning in and hearing what I have to say. Like, that's wild to me. In the meantime, like, comment, subscribe, share this podcast around. We're just getting started, so hopefully things get a little less choppy as time goes on. I have that live stream party on Saturday, so spread the word. I'm going to try to keep you guys entertained for a decent amount of time at least. Hopefully that goes through. And just make sure, you're practicing safe self-isolation techniques and staying safe, staying sane. Pick a schedule. My good friend who runs Staten Mental Health Performance, like the podcast, he said that a big way to help with this isolation is to get a schedule. And my dad confirmed it, and I'm going to confirm it right now. Keeping a schedule will keep you busy and ultimately, help, because when you don't have a schedule, you're just going to sit there and look at the news, and the news is always terrifying, and it's always like all the negative stuff. So just in a time like this, it's important to just, focus on yourself and your family and your friends, your real friends. And, yeah, I got to find a better way to end these things, man. I just kind of keep rambling, but, I will figure it out as it goes on. Anyway, hope you guys have an amazing rest of your week. I will see you guys Saturday. And in terms of the podcast, I will see you guys next week. So stay healthy. This is Harry signing out.